This is the Toxic Talk Show.
All right, welcome to the Toxic Talk Show. I'm your host, Marksman, and I hope you enjoy. I'm so glad we got this thing going. NCEN is something we've been trying to get off the ground for a little while now, and I can't wait to see what comes from it all. Enough of that. Let's get right into it. Space Station Gaming has been on an absurd run this year, winning 3 out of 4 tournaments leading up to champs, and I would argue the last win was better than the rest. You get knocked down to the losers bracket, your first round at your home major. Talk about dealing with pressure. I mean, truly, after that first day, they looked unstoppable. Stellar was impressive all tournament long. I think he ended with like a 1.18 KD or something. The whole team really just played well. It's like watching a well oiled machine out there. They were 7-0 in Strongholds and 6-1 in King of the Hill. Their teamwork is just simply unmatched. I think if you're looking at the rest of the competition going into the World Championship, you're feeling pretty good as an SSG fan right now. Faces look lackluster to say the least, and you beat OpTic in another final. I mean, there really should be no reason they lose the champs there. I mean, you hate to say that just because anything can happen, but if they're not the favorites, I don't know who is. And that leads us into this. Are OpTic Halo Silver Surfers? Let's address the elephant in the room. OpTic have been so good this year and have won nothing. 4 straight second places. The fan base must be sick. It's very comparable to Atlanta FaZe in the CDL Vanguard season. Really good, sometimes the best team in the game, but still finding ways to lose in the biggest moments. They had the last tournament in the bag, already beating their biggest competition in SSG. And then Sunday rolls around and they play like a completely different team. Formal was arguably the best player at that event, and they still couldn't win. I don't know what's up with this team. I feel like I like all the guys, right? But they need to figure it out fast. I mean, they have one more chance at this thing before it's curtains on a disappointing season. You pick up Dead Zone. I think that's the right move, but we've really not seen anything from it. I actually just saw a stat that they went 30-0 in scrims against Complexity and Native Gaming. Like, that's impressive. But win a tournament, I don't question how you can play against Complexity and Native Gaming. I know that their scrims really have nothing to do with this. They got to do good in them one way or another. But, I mean, win when it matters. Show up when it matters. I think they can do it, but we'll see. If there ever was a tournament you want to win, though, it is this one. So, I have faith in the guys. I hope they come out and they figure it out. If they don't get over the hump, I wonder if Formal considers making a COD return. Something to consider. I know. Might be a little out there. We'll have to see. Alright, so a lot of people ask and argue about what makes a good Call of Duty team. I hear all the time from fans that a team needs slaying above anything else. I think that's just a fan mentality because that's not necessarily true. Just look at OpTic Texas last season. Sure, they had Shotzi, they had Dashy, they added a Slayer like Pred, but arguably their biggest get was Kenny as a true leader for the team. The difference from a MW2 season where they win nothing and stumble out of champs to MW3 really was a leader like Kenny. So that brings me to the quote unquote super team LA Thieves are rumored to be forming. I'll say it that way for now. I look at this team, you have Ghosty, Scrap, Hydra, and Envoy. And my first thought is that's a lot of personalities in one room. I worry about it. I mean, the slang is off the charts. but I feel like if this team gets in a rut, who's going to bring them out? Maybe that's why they went to reunite Sender with Envoy. I think that's a good move. I think that's the best thing for this team because they're going to need Envoy in full leadership mode. Don't get me wrong, this team will win an event and probably be taking series off of FaZe and OpTic regularly. But I do worry about them long term. I worry about their composure with this specific roster. I mean, you're adding two of the most prolific players at the positions in Scrap and Hydra. So it's hard to say that that won't be an amazing team. And that's not what I'm saying, okay? All I'm saying is it's just a lot of talent and ego. But if I were building a team to go against OpTic and FaZe, I think this is the one that has the most talent comp. We'll see. But in my opinion, having a leadership guy really is what wins championships in this league. Just take a look at the past championships won. It's not always just the most talented team. I think that's fair to say. And I'm not saying they won't have that. I don't think that they won't have a leader. But I am interested to see who steps up as that guy. We're a little late to this one, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Doug Sensor Martin, who is usually the COD community's favorite punching bag. I mean, there's montages of him all over YouTube about pretty much talking about how much this guy sucks. I don't agree with it. I don't think Doug's the best player. It's besides the point. I'm on a tangent. He's usually the punching bag, but he broke the world record for pull-ups with 9,250 in 24 hours. I mean, Doug has always been a strong dude. We all know the tank top jersey and all that, but this is something else entirely. This may sound a little bit silly, but I like to think that these esports skills transfer to other things. I'm not saying this proves it. I'm not saying that he isn't an elite athlete, but you have to tip it at the very minimum. This achievement takes another level of work ethic and training. And you could just see through this whole process he's been on, tuning into his stream, even the stream where he's actually doing it. And I think he took that same dedication he's shown to have for Call of Duty and was able to use that well to get him to this goal. I saw the aftermath of what his hands looked like, and it was disturbing. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying in a very impressive way towards him. I even heard people saying his blisters would burst and bleed throughout the whole thing. I mean, wow. We live in a world where a lot of people talk about goals and do nothing about it. So you have to give props to the guy. He worked hard. It paid off. You love to see it. I mean, good for Doug. I know a lot of people roast Doug. It was cool to see the community really rally around him as well. Good for him. Let's get into my first Top Dog segment of the year. So basically, Top Dogs is my top 8 teams in either going into a tournament, after a tournament, really whatever. COD, Halo, all esports really apply that we'll be covering. So without further information, let's go to get right into this one for Halo leading into champs. So at number 8 is Native Gaming. I like the roster, but I don't love it. I consider putting Pure here, but after their fall off, I just think that Native is a better team. I think they have some upset potential, but I wouldn't bank on them getting higher than top 6. Quadrant is the 7th best team in my opinion. They've been all over the place this season, but we really haven't been able to break into the top tier of talent like they were last year. They might show up for a solid match or two, but I really can't see them doing anything special in this tournament. As much as I might like to see it, I think this is kind of their cap. Into the Breach at 6. I had this as a toss-up between them and Quadrant, but I really like what I've seen from them. They've been one of the more pleasant surprises this season, especially the last two tournaments. I like the team, but I think that they are kind of at their ceiling here, just talent-wise and just overall comp-wise. I don't think I can put them any higher than this. Alright, complexity sits at 5. I like this team a lot, and if I had to pick one team to make it into the top 4 that wouldn't be traditionally there already, it would be them. Breaking Shot and Ryanoob have been really solid, but I worry about their consistency. I'd give them a shot, but I think top 4 is best case for them. And they're good, but I'm not going to put them in my top 4. But do I think they can get there? Maybe, depending if they're playing really good in the weekend. All right. Number 4, it's FaZe. And shockingly, I'm not very confident about it at all. Sorry about that. After winning Major 2, they've been pretty all over the place. I noticed a lot of improvement last tournament, and I think we all know this team clearly has championship potential. I think they have a solid chance if Snakebite shows up, but just the way they've been playing all year, I put them at 4. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. Shopify's a weird team, all right? I have them 3 right now because I think they're the 3rd best team. The roster is solid the whole way around, in my opinion. They have very few weaknesses. Suppress has been really good. And he had a good tournament as well. Their biggest problem is they've been the 3rd best team all year. They just can't seem to break that barrier into being a truly good contender. And by 3rd best team, I mean at every tournament. So when FaZe was obviously at the top, they were there, just not quite a good contender. I think they might be able to contend this one, but I would be shocked. It would take something special for them. So yeah, Shopify might be able to do something, but I'll have to see it first. They just haven't been contenders all year. All right. At 2nd is OpTic, which is fitting, being they have been chronically 2nd place all year. The roster is solid top to bottom, but when Sunday comes around, they crumble. They play like a different team. If they figure that out, they win this tournament. Formal has been stepping up in a big way for this team. They just have to find a way over that hump. I'd hate to see this team get 2nd all year just based on how good they've been, but it's kind of looking like that right now. And the number 1 team that keeps beating OpTic, keeping them in 2nd all year, is SSG. There really is no reason to think they won't win this tournament. I mean, Major 4, they were in loser's bracket and ran the table. If you were another team, that was your shot. They have superstars across the roster, and I think they go into Seattle and put a stamp on an excellent season. Like I said, I would be shocked if they didn't. And that's my top 8 teams. Those are my top dogs, and the top dog is Space Station Gaming. Let me know in the comments below what you got and who you think is taking the tournament. Team ratings aren't always who we think are taking the tournament, and that's kind of what we'll see going into next week. All right. Yeah, I really like SSG to take the tournament, but I really haven't made my mind up on where the rest are going to land as far as the actual tournament goes. Let's get into something else. I usually don't like doing this because I know a lot of work goes into running professional esports organizations. I also know that it isn't that profitable right now. But here's the thing. Cloud9 buys the subliner spot and have really done nothing but tank it. We obviously don't know the roster yet, but so far not so good. They released Sib, who was the team's 2nd best player at the end of the season. I don't think you can debate that. Whether you like Kismet or Skies, I don't think that's debatable. And then they lose D-Rail, the coach who turned them into a championship team just 2 years ago. Now, that's not the worst. I think D-Rail can walk. I don't think that's going to kill you. But it doesn't stop there. Now, there's all this uncertainty about them losing their other coach, Sender. So you're going to lose both your coaching staff. That's pretty much your whole system you spent so long building. And then potentially one of the most talented players in the league, maybe in Call of Duty history, in Hydra. What are you doing? Like I said, I understand there are a lot of factors that go into these and a lot to consider, but you're pretty much losing the soul of the team before your first season as owners. Not exactly the reintroduction you want to be making. I saw a quote from the C9 owner saying, "I signed up to get a world-class roster and was shocked to have a situation where it wasn't possible to keep it." I hear that and think, isn't that your job? Maybe they wanted to sib off the team. That's fine. And maybe somebody else had to go, 2-person change, maybe even 3. But we know Hydra wants the team with scrap. Why aren't you the team that's making that happen instead of Thieves? I think if you want to get rid of Sib and the coaches, that's fine. I don't think it's always the best decision, but sometimes things are beyond what we know as the public. But how do you seemingly lose your franchise player like this so easily? I mean, Pred had a buyout situation that lasted a whole season that Seattle wouldn't get rid of, even though things were rough. I hear it could be a bit of a pay thing, a pay cut, but you're not going to make any more money if the team sucks. And you're going to lose your fan base because fans will allow players to succeed and organizations to succeed. But fans will also follow players to other teams in this league. It's a much heavier player fan base than traditional sports because players stream, people follow players. Obviously, this is all rumors at the time of recording this, but I would do everything in my power to make this right with Hydra and build around him in New York. And if I'm a fan of New York, I'm gutted by what's going on this offseason. It's been horrendous. Maybe the worst we've seen from a top team in the CDL era. That's a heavy accusation, but I just don't see what they're doing right now. Alright, so we all played the Black Ops 6 beta, and I'll be honest, I have some concerns. As good as the movement felt on the game, I would say the maps felt equally as bad. I don't think the game will be terrible, but it does lead one to question, why are we making such a drastic overcorrection with the map size? I think a game like Cold War, and even some maps in Vanguard, understood that aside from the 3 lanes, the map needed to be able to handle your game's movement, speed, for pacing. That's partly why I felt that MW2 was such a lackluster game. Because you felt sluggish on the maps. It wasn't fun to play. While the movement was bad, it just was a combo. I don't think the maps were terrible. Black Ops 6 is a really fast game. I trust that Treyarch knows what they're doing. But playing maps like Rewind in Derelict is a little bit concerning. I hear that the maps aren't getting much bigger than Scud, which is fine, but I think they are going to have to be really well designed to be able to work, at least from a competitive standpoint. I will admit Skyline seemed to be a great map. If the rest are like Skyline, I'll put my foot in my mouth on the whole map thing. But as a whole, I don't see how the smaller maps fit a faster pacing. It's just kind of like a disjointed approach to something that I think should be so easy here. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm not going to not buy the game, but I am concerned. Definitely for competitive. I'm sure pubs will be fine, but competitive is a little concerning from the maps right now. To win at anything consistently is a hard thing to do. Sometimes you have an off day or get complacent and you let it slip. I look at Call of Duty Warzone and think the game's RNG. Too hard to win consistently, but then you have the Falcons team coming. When they won last year's World Series of Warzone, there was all the CDL versus Warzone drama. And I kind of thought they were good, but that's probably it for them, right? Now here they are, and they've won another world championship, and they won EWC in the offseason. I guess offseason for them. Right now, I'm thinking this may be the best Warzone roster we'll ever see. To win consistently in a game like this is very impressive to me. Do I think these guys would be dominant in the CDL? No, I don't. Maybe good, but who knows? I didn't think they could win another world championship, and they did. So they've proven me wrong. And I mean, winning back-to-back world championships and a tournament as big as EWC, at least monetarily speaking, you get to call them the first Warzone Dynasty. I don't think you can dispute that. I know there's not any other dynasties Warzone-wise, and we don't really know what goes into becoming a dynasty. For Warzone, at least. So yeah, I don't see who else would be there, and I think that's really cool for them to become the first. I mean, what more could they do? And to have a dynasty in Warzone esports really is something to be proud of, and it's awesome for those guys. So huge congrats to them. You know, we're going to have to talk more about the Warzone versus CDL Pro thing. We'll have time. Hopefully we get a tournament between them when BO6 starts. That'd be really awesome. I wanted to talk more on Halo, right? But Roster Mania has kicked off a lot. And I wasn't super prepared, but I think we should go ahead and just talk about it. So, there have been reports of Gentlemates buying the LAG spot. If you watch EWC, you may be familiar with the brand already. Maybe not. But I see this as great news. LAG has been an absolute eyesore from an outside looking in perspective for years now. A lot of people say it's the players. I don't really think you have to blame it on them. I think you have to blame it on poor management. The way I see it, they're like that friend at the party that wants to put their feet in the pool, but never really commits to getting in. It's frustrating, right? You can't say it's just a money thing like Legion either. Legion wouldn't spend any money. They paid minimum the whole time. They got out clean, but it was a disaster. But you can't say that for LAG because they went out and spent money on RCDs in the MW2 season, and that was a disaster for them. I think some of the CDL era orgs over and undervalue a lot of the team chem and roster building aspects. Not a lot of them have GMs, not a lot of them care about that. You need a superstar or two, and you need solid pieces that fit those gaps that they have. Look at New York the past 2 seasons. At least in MW2, they made the champs final with a superstar and 3 solid pieces around him. So my advice to the Gentlemates is, don't waste money, evaluate a great superstar piece, and build a solid team around him. They don't have to be all superstars. I mean, some may argue that to be OpTic, FaZe, and LAT's super team if that becomes a thing. But I don't think that's what you need. I think you need a solid team. And I think in this league, it benefits you to do so. Because consistency will help you. I think that's the lesson we learned from the New York Subliners as they kind of go off into the night. I saw rumors on the Hydra front. And honestly, if they pull that off, that would be great for this franchise to start off in. Either way, I'm glad to see some fresh blood in here. It is actually excited to be in the league, unlike LAG, who were kind of like a tired warhorse, just ready to get put down. So yeah, hopefully everything goes well there. I hate to end the show on such a low note, but I'm not really encouraged by what I've been seeing coming out of the league the last few days. Toronto Ultra CEO Grausen comes out and says, quote, "For the CDO, we simply can't sustain the contracts we have. They were made under different circumstances in the prior CDL model, and the best path forward is to reset and let everyone explore their options." Wow. Okay. I understand what he's saying, but I don't exactly get it, if that makes sense. We know what the league is at this point. Good or bad, it's nothing new. Toronto has been on the World Championship doorstep for 2 years now, and they couldn't get it done. If I'm the fans, much like NY, this hurts. At least NY got a ring before they imploded. Toronto went all in getting Envoy, and it didn't pay off. Not Envoy's fault, but it shows this league gives you a 2-year window, and then it closes. Unless you're FaZe or OpTic, who have a little more stability in the organization, it seems like you're on borrowed time if you're playing for a championship ring. Even LA had to effectively chalk a year after they went all in 2022. It's emblematic of a greater problem, and it's that the league isn't doing their part to innovate, to allow for these teams to find more monetary success. I think it's shocking with Toronto because they have the fan base and they have the content. I mean, they host the best major probably every year. So in my mind, I thought they'd be in a better spot than most. If you're letting your franchise guy walk out the door, then I'm guessing not. You know, I see Envoy, but Scrap was supposed to be Ultra for life. At least how many saw it. I wish Ultra the best of luck this year. But I think this is going to be a rough year. This is going to be a rough period for them because of this, and it's very disappointing to see. We'll see if they're still able to keep up. I think if you build around Kleenex and Insight and hope they find that peak form again, you may have a chance at being competitive. Maybe. But I just don't see you playing for many championships. Well, that's all I got for you today. I'm really curious to see how this offseason shakes out for CDL because the whole thing is a domino effect. We're just waiting for that push to start us off into it. Halo's coming soon. That should be next week. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for stopping by, supporting this. If you want to check out clips of it, that's going to be out there as well. We're just trying to build what we can here and hopefully get more content in the platform. If you are a content creator watching this, feel free to add NCE on Twitter. I'm sure somebody will respond to you there. And don't forget to like and subscribe for next week's episode. Thank you guys, and we'll see you then.